And we're heading to Central Hawke's Bay now to meet Tony Thompson, one of New Zealand's most influential breeders of Simmental cattle. He also has a new and surprising passion. Maggie Tweedy takes up the story.
It's a warm autumn day in Central Hawke's Bay and I'm heading to Farm Road in Waipukaro to meet one of the country's oldest and most energetic stud breeders, Tony Thompson. Upon my arrival, I learnt about Tony's story as a young backcountry farmer in Whanganui, where he decided to train as a vet and become the first person to graduate from Massey University Veterinary School. Tony paid his way through university, sharing, and earned several scholarships, including one to Cambridge in England, where he studied embryology and became an embryo transplant specialist. On a trip in the late 1960s, he and his wife Glenys visited the Sim Valley in Switzerland, which is where their story begins. They were drawn to creamy white faces and brownish reddish coats of muscly Simmental cattle. It was this adventure that inspired Tony and Glenys to merge their names and register the Simmental herd as Glen Anthony.
And it's amazing, isn't it? We went to a cattle sale, actually, in a town in the Sim Valley in the region called the Emmental, hence the name, I guess, Simmental.
Kind of like Glen Anthony, the combination of the two names, right?
Well, it's really been lovely, yeah, that's right. And that's been super, really. It was so sad when we went back into many, many years later to find that the Simmental breed has been crossed so vastly with Holstein, Friesian breed and bloods of dairy cattle. And now in Switzerland, there's the crossbreed is basically a dairy breed and nothing to do with beef cattle at all. It's in Germany where the beef side of the Simmental breed has really been promoted and pushed.
Is that trend also happening in Aotearoa, New Zealand, though, with dairy cattle?
Well, there are Simmentals now used in the dairy production for those dairy beef bulls, and people are using the Simmental breed. Just recently outplayed by the Charolais, sadly, but that's what I've now produced the bull which has had over the last few years one of the best easy calving records in the Simmental breed, and so I collected a lot of semen to sell into the dairy breed, into the dairy business, but I'm finding it a bit hard to push it. You've really got to have a good marketing situation, and running a farm and doing those sorts of things, you're not quite in the right position.
You've got this real breadth of experience. First of all, starting off at vet services and working as a veterinary surgeon, but then also, moving into becoming an expert show judge and then having extraordinary success showing your own cattle. And has that helped shape your eye, but also shape your stud?
I think it definitely has, and my interest in artificial breeding is a big factor in that. And it wasn't until we moved down here to Waipukaro in 1974 that I again was lots of beef cattle down here and studs. And so there was an interest in embryo transplant starting to occur in the early 80s. And so I went to a course in Australia in 1983, run by Dr. Peter Elsden. And that was marvellous, and that set me off on the non-surgical method of flushing a donor cow and implanting the embryos into recipient cows. So my career in that started then, and I've had several very, very interesting jobs with that in my professional career. One of them was working with Hilton Gutzel to produce a Charolais stud from 11 heifers that he bought, and over a period of 3 years we were able to produce a herd of 60 females. And then, of course, I had a long association with brown agriculture and with propagating the Wagyu breed here in Hawke's Bay.
Should we go and check out these heifers?
Yeah, let's go and have a look. Or we could have a look around. A bit of equipment for me.
We climb into the ute and drive down the laneway, passing the old stable that once housed Tony's polo ponies he rode for 15 years at the Wanstead Polo Club. Just ahead of us is a group of cows and heifer calves that are carefully kept for competition. Tony's passion for the Simmental breed is evident in his commitment to showing them at AMP events across the country.
So these are lovely big show cows that we've had in the past.
And they're so friendly, they're coming right up to us.
Yeah, they're lovely. Calves perhaps not quite so used to us, but look at that lovely big heifer calf, she's beautiful.
And so glossy. What kind of season have you had here? It looks like you've got plenty of feed.
We have had the most amazing season you could think of, and we looked like heading to a drought in December, and so we were starting to feed out baleage. Then we had 90 mils of rain between the 20th of December and the 20th of January, and the growth just was amazing. This is Chorus. She's a lovely old cow, and she was born in 2014, so she's 11 years old and really keeping herself together beautifully.
Gosh, she looks immaculate. Have you given her a scrub before I came over?
No.
I feel like she's had a polish.
But you only need to put a halter on her and she'd be fine. It's just amazing. But yeah, talking to the season, and since then we've had on and off rain all the way through, and look at the feed. We just can't believe it. Come on! You're coming to talk to us. Yeah. There you are. Good morning. So these are our heifers coming up to have their first calf. Looking extremely well. Almost too well. We'll make them work a bit over the winter so they just take a little bit of that fat off, I think. While they're looking lovely at the moment, I think that we want to make it easy for them to have a calf, and too much fat around the birth canal and things ain't the best.
Easy calving's a passion of yours, isn't it?
Absolutely. Easy calving's a passion, and I've gone against the modern trend in that at age 80 I can't feel bothered trying to go out in the middle of the night to check 2-year-old heifers having their first calf. So I've opted for the easy option, and I'm not calving until 3-year-old. This is a breed that is a late maturing breed. They're not as early maturing as Angus. They're not sexually early maturing as Angus. Honestly, way back, a clerk was sitting at his desk in the Department of Agriculture building and suddenly thought, oh, farmers could make more money out of mating yearling heifers instead of waiting for them to be 2-year-old. And it was a decision made at a desk for a financial reason. And, you know, I sort of feel as a stockman, you've got to think of the animal, you've got to think of the cattle beast. And as a veterinary surgeon, I was often the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. If the farmer hadn't got it right, if he hadn't got his heifers to the right size or hadn't used the right bull, there was calving trouble. And I was out there doing caesareans or attending to heifers that were damaged during the calving process because the calf was too big. And I just felt that's sad, really. You're limited to what bulls you can use, and while I know there are a lot of stud breeders out there that have got it down to a fine art and do it very well, I'm afraid I've taken the lazy option, and I'm mating my 2-year-olds, and look at them, they're lovely cattle.
Should we go down this way, or we'll get back in the truck?
Get back in the truck and we'll drive around the top.
We walk to a nearby bull paddock. Normally, Tony's sale is held on farm in mid-June, making it one of the last stud bull sales on the east coast. But this year, after a stud breeder sold his herd, a new spot opened up and he decided to move it a month earlier, to May 16, to avoid being the last pick of the bunch. Tony's farm is 230 acres. Previously, they had 500 acres at their farm in Onga, but after selling that property, he and his late wife Glenys reduced their herd from 150 cows to 70. They're now able to sell 20 bulls, and Glen Anthony now focuses on consciously choosing to use pole bulls.
So here are the sale bulls, all looking very comfortable, very relaxed.
Oh my gosh. They're chewing their cuds.
Chewing their cuds.
What was the decision to start poling your cattle and take the horns off? How long did that actually end up taking you? Has it been more than a decade?
We went in 2012, we went for a tour through Germany, looked at the bulls there, and they were traditionally horned cattle. And we couldn't believe it, that the whole stud book of Simmental cattle in Germany were polled. And they told us it took them 15 years. So 2012, we've been going 13, so we're getting close.
And so naturally the ones that are polled are probably more popular?
That's what's happening now. Yeah, there are some commercial buyers that don't mind, but the stud people, everybody's going polled now, so it's become the thing to do.
You can fetch a higher price for the polled?
I think so on a stud basis, but our top price last year was a horn bull, and as the Hereford breeders will tell you, and those people that are into buying Herefords, they'll tell you that bigger cattle, bone-wise and things, are the horned cattle.
They all seem so docile sitting there together. No one's fighting.
No, they're very, very good. The temperament of these cattle is excellent.
Nearby, Tony's covered cattle yard has been turned into a grandstand with hay bales for people to sit on during the auction. He's not only a successful breeder, show judge and competitor, but also a mentor to many young people starting out in agriculture. He said it all started with him taking too many cattle to each A&P show.
Now, if you're going to show 20 cattle at a show, you need people, you need help. And Amy Hugenblum was the first girl to come out from school here in Waipuc.
Who is now a vet?
Who's now a vet, and I nurtured her through all that, and it was such a thrill to see her become a veterinary surgeon. It really was really good. So she started it off really, and then I had these other young people, and of course Max came along, and Rowan Stanford, and a few other people, and then they made my staff for showing all these cattle. And that's how it started. And then it was very easy then, because Future Beef was the competition, and the group of people that set up Future Beef to try and promote the appreciation of beef cattle, the judging of beef cattle and the showing of beef cattle in young people. In a way, it was a school for young people to bring some cattle from farms, bring them along, and then be shown a little bit about grooming, to compete in the show ring, so they got experience of showing, go through several courses of questioning and little short competitions to really teach them all about beef production and management and all those sorts of things. And I fully supported it, and because it's held in Fielding each year, they required cattle for the young people to judge. They needed some heifers and some young cattle to judge. So I used to take some cattle down from the Glen Anthony stud. And then, of course, it was made easy because following on from Future Beef, they had the National Bull Sales and Beef Expo, they called it. And that was a great thing to be involved with the young people. And as well as that, I could take some bulls for the sale. I helped a lot. Sometimes there weren't enough leaders to lead my young heifers in the ring, and so I would get out and do it myself. And I remember Bruce Orr one day, who was commentating on the event, and he said, "Now here comes the oldest calf leader you'll ever see, Mr. Thompson in his 60s. But yeah, I was showing the young kids that, hey, look, this can be done.
Yeah.
Oh, we started off some amazing little young people that had never, ever seen cattle before, unlike these people were from the city. And to see them out there leading the calves and leading things was amazing.
So many of the young people that you mentored have ended up in the agricultural industry, and I don't think that's a mistake.
No, it's been great, isn't it?
At age 80, Tony is one of the country's oldest stud breeders, but you wouldn't know it from his energy. In 2024, he celebrated a major milestone, 50 years of Glen Anthony stud. But he doesn't do it all on his own. As we head back towards the house, we spot Grant Latimer, who's been living on the farm with his partner Marianne and working alongside Tony since 2020. A former client and owner of his own stud, Grant brings experience to the team.
And he went to the Easter show one Easter, and we had all our cattle there showing them. And so he saw this, he thought, gee, I'd like those cattle. And so he came down to the stud and had a look, and he ended up buying some heifers and cows and bought a bull from us and started up a Simmental stud on Cornwall Park.
Isn't that fascinating? And now how many years on he's working for you?
That's right.
If you had to cherry pick some of your favourite animals from your herd, what are some of those milestones? What are some of those animals that stand out?
In 2003, we imported a bull from Australia. He was an amazing bull. We brought this bull in home. I went and looked at him in Australia and decided, yep, we could have him, and brought him out. And we went around the shows. He'd already run the Champion of Champions at the Easter Royal Show as a yearling, and we took him out as a 2- and 3-year-old to the shows around here, and he won the Meat and Wool Cup, which, as you know, is the champion of all the beef breeds at the shows. And we won that at the Royal Show in Hastings, Waikato and Christchurch and Auckland.
Extraordinary.
He was just amazing. He was named Yardstick, Monreed Yardstick.
So he's right at the bottom of the alphabet.
Yeah. You know, the old Irish chap in Australia was really amazing because we'd been on a herd tour with the Simmental Society in 2002. Or perhaps it was 2003. That's when he was born. And we saw this calf on his mother and really liked it. When we got home, looked at our photographs, you know, you look at over your photographs of the tour. I said, I must give this guy a ring to see if there's any chance of perhaps getting some semen or even buying the bull. We just loved the car. And so we got hold of Mr. Murphy, had a chat to him. He said no. He said he had a lot of time for this calf. He thought he was going to make a big difference to their own herd, but he would be interested when he was old enough to perhaps send us some semen. Well, in March 2004, at the end of Easter weekend, we get a phone call from Australia, and it's Mr. Murphy. And he says, look, Mr. Thompson, he says, this bull has just won the Supreme Champion at the Sydney Royal Show, and we've got the phone is going crazy with people wanting to buy him. And I remembered that you from New Zealand was the first person to ask if you could buy him. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just so marvellous? And so I got a mate of mine. My wife doesn't like flying, so my mate of mine, John Jackson, we hopped on an aeroplane and flew to Sydney and then got a rental car and drove all the way up to Nundle, which is in the middle of New South Wales, and checked out the bull, decided we liked him, and so we bought him.
It must have felt like Christmas.
It was amazing.
It's time for a cup of tea with Tony's partner Laurel, who has just whipped up a fresh batch of fluffy cheese puffs and buttery shortbread from the oven. We gather around the kitchen table as she pours the brew into delicate china teacups. The two chat about their late spouses fondly and seem glad to have found comfort in each other's company through grief. Laurel isn't too keen on stepping up to the microphone. She prefers to stay out of the spotlight. But Tony, he's been sitting on a surprise. Turns out he's a real bull in a china shop, or rather a museum inside his house, brimming with pristine Irish china he and Glenys lovingly collected over the years.
We are now in the China Museum. This is Bleak china from County Fermanagh in Northern Ireland. And this dates back to the 1860s, so it's 100 to 150 years old. A job that I took on in 2013, I just started to enjoy importing this from overseas and collecting it. And it's a special, really special china that is still being made today. And you can see a picture of the pottery there at the top. And that's in a little town called Bleak, right over on the west coast of Northern Ireland. And we've visited there twice now and gone to the pottery and had a look. So as we walk through the museum, you'll see that there's lots of things here. These are the typical Bleak with the shamrock colouring on it. And these are two dolls also made by the factory. And then we go right round and you can see all different tea sets, colours. We've got the green sets here, we've got the tulip sets there, we've got the animals, we've got these amazing baskets, and it's just so incredible to think that that's all China, and that these baskets could be made out of China.
I've never seen a basket of china.
No.
That's a first.
And these beautiful colours behind us here, these are the Art Deco colours. These are just amazing. This is called the Neptune pattern with the little shells on the bottom, you can see.
The shells are kind of like feet.
That's right. They're the feet for the cups, and also for the little jugs, the feet on there. And that's a Neptune pattern. This is a Tridacna pattern. All different patterns. We have beautiful gilding around the edges, 9-carat gold. And here we have the platinum around the edges, which is really, really beautiful. It's been, here you are, I've been over 10 years now collecting.
Only 10 years, Tony. This is quite a collection.
That's right. This would probably be one of the best collections of coloured black mark Bleak in the world. This is very, very, very thin. If you put it in your hand, it's just absolutely thin.
I can't believe you're entrusting me to hold it.
Not at all. You can hold it up to the light and see through it. You can see my hand on the other side. And to think that it was made in the 1880s, 1890s, was shipped to America, lived in America for all these hundreds of years, and then shipped here to New Zealand, and it's still in perfect condition. Just incredible.
Exquisite.
Just takes your breath away, really.
40 display cabinets.
40 display cabinets. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
My family aren't interested, the younger people aren't interested in this sort of collection, which is a bit sad, but that's true. No, I'm happy to accept that. It seems such a pity to be sitting here in a farmhouse in Waipukurau. It's something special, and we should really be sharing it with other people. And I'm so lucky that this lady here loves it to bits.
I do. I really enjoy the Bleak. It's lovely.
So it's just so lovely we have an interest together. And
so beautiful.
This is really incredible.
Tony Thompson talking to Maggie Tweedy at his farm in central Hawke's Bay. You can see video of his china collection on our webpage, rnz.co.nz/countrylife.